Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Rohit Arora, pediatrician neonatologist at Apollo Cradle Hospital, Gurgaon. Today, as part of our regular webinar series, I'm gonna talk about a little bit about fussy eaters. Right? Parents in my OPD practice, I get a lot of queries and parents coming only for this that my child doesn't eat well and he's a fussy eater, he's a picky eater. So we're going to discuss a little bit about that part. It creates a lot of anxiety among parents and it creates a lot of issues amongst the family members as well. They are always concerned about the growth and the food part, and it also is not a very good thing for a growing child that the parents are anxious about child's eating. So we are going to talk about these certain issues. If you have any queries in between, you can keep on asking. Okay, so first of all, so for when the child is born, babies are kept on breastfeeding for first 6 months. That's the recommendation, and to continue breastfeeding after 6 months also, preferably to a period of 2 years, which is the time until the brain is growing. Our brain grows to the adult size, almost the adult size, by 2 years of age. And there are a lot of substances in the breast milk which are required for the proper growth and development of our brain, which are not present in any other food. So breast milk feeding is extremely important. Mothers, please be very committed, motivated for that. If you want to visit us less often, visit your pediatrician less often. That's one of the ways of doing it. Your child will not fall sick very often. Your child will not develop allergies, and child will have stronger immunity. Most of the parents wherein the child is getting breastfeeding regularly the first 2 years, they come only for vaccinations and go away. They rarely fall sick. So it's very important to breastfeeding. So that's always to be kept in mind. Now, at 6 months onwards, we generally begin to start giving semi-solid foods also when all these issues tend to begin, right? Fussy eating and all those things. So we need to, as pediatricians, it's our duty to spend some time with the parents and explain them how things might evolve from here on, right? So when the kids begin eating, you have to understand from their shoes. You have to put yourself in those shoes, right? So far, what baby is getting is milk in some form or the other, and that is being swallowed. That is just being, gulped down. There's no chewing movement. There's no texture to it. There's no flavor or less flavor to it. There's no roughness, coarseness to the food which the baby is getting so far. Now suddenly, babies get certain things in the mouth which have all these features: roughness, texture, there's flavor, there is coarseness of the food, and they are supposed to make some kind of chewing movement or at least some mouthing movement to bring it down. So it's a huge change in baby's life, which babies have not experienced so far, right? So absolutely something which is totally new, right? So put yourself in those shoes that you come across such a big change in life, and how would you react, right? You would expect some comfort, some support around for it to tide over the such new scenarios. So same is happening with your child. So what does that mean? That you have to be very supportive, very appreciative to your child, right? Really clap for the child, dance in front of the child, as if child has really won the Olympic medal or something, right? Child should feel like that. Then only the chances of eating regularly and eating good food are high. So always keep that in mind when you give the semi-solid foods to a child. Also, from now on, kids will be eating regularly, right? Now the rest of the lives, kids have to eat only, right? Most of they'll be eating all the time from now on. So that means go very slow to begin with. Don't rush onto things. Don't change foods every now and then. Get them used to one kind of food. and give them time to get idea of making all those mouthing movements, give them time to understand that food habits. And if they are already so confused, when you change the food every second day, they become even more confused. So when you start some semi-solid food, stick to that combination for at least a week, and then move on to another. Maybe you can change one food at a time, add another, remove one. After 1 week, then again remove one food which we has already taken for a week, and then add another food, like that. Right? So that's like going about in the beginning. Also, keep the frequency of meals to 2 times to begin with for at least, let's say, till 8 months. I mean, there's no hard and fast rules, but in general guideline is to give twice, maximum thrice, 3 times food, and the rest dietary requirements are met by breastfeeding. So the breastfeeding will continue. Consider this food as bonus. Okay, don't think of this food as as a meal per se. It's just an added extra bonus of meal that is on top of breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is still the primary paramount source of nutrition even after 6 months, and food you can think of just as an experiment, as a bonus. Right? So let the child experiment with the food, and whatever child takes is bonus for the child, for you as well. Right? So that's how the start, if such kind of start kids get, generally they are good with food. Also, we recommend not to add salt and sugar to the food items initially. Now, again, salt and sugar, again, as you know, milk is bland. The child is having milk. Milk is bland, so they are actually used to the idea of having bland food. A lot of parents ask us, how will child eat without salt and sugar? Because even we can't eat. Yes, we can't eat because we are now conditioned. We are used to it, but kids are not. Kids are still used to having bland food, so they are okay with bland food. And when we introduce carbohydrates, anaj materials in the food to begin with, which are on the bland side, then the chances of acceptance are high. Right? So without salt, anything which is salty and sugary, kids generally will accept very easily. But then you don't want to introduce them so early, so that later on when you would want to give them things, bland food, then they will probably not like it and reject. The chances of rejection goes higher. Okay, so that's how you should start. Now, how to keep on going? Again, the appreciative piece has to be there, and it should not be that you should scold the child and once child doesn't eat. So you have to make a game out of it. Just make sure child enjoys eating, child, and then it's not a stressful situation around food. Right? All kids understand is whether it's a game, whether anything is a game, or whether anything is not a game. So if it is a game, it becomes a game. Food, again, the kids will probably enjoy it. The chances of eating becomes higher. So make a game around it, and if the child doesn't eat as per your liking, don't bother. Okay, so each kid will be different. Each day will be different. Right? One day your kid, loves the broccoli soup. It's probably the best food in the earth, on the face of the earth for him. The very next day, that they will hate that food. Right? So that's how kids are. All kids are like that. They change every day, and you cannot argue. You cannot argue with them. You should not also let them be the kids. They should not be thinking or working like adults do. So fussy eaters is actually the term. This actually, for me, there's no child who's a fussy eater. It's a terminology we have invented for them. Kids, it's very subjective based on parental anxieties and the fact that parents tend to decide for the child as to how much they want to eat. They should be eating, right? So if they have prepared a bowl of meal, and until the child finishes it, they keep on pursuing it. So that should not be the case. It creates a lot of anxiety amongst the parents, and at the same time, it's very detrimental for the child. He or she will eventually lose interest in the food. Right? Gradually, the food becomes a stress. It's not fun anymore. So child will be stressful every time food is offered, even if the child is hungry. If you offer food to a hungry child, if he's stressed, he'll probably not eat, and he would not understand why he's not eating. Parents won't understand, and it's a messy situation, right? So one thing, if anything, you want to take home from today's session is just make the feeding feeding time a fun time. Just make sure child enjoys around it. The quantity doesn't matter at all, right? It will be variable all the time. Some days will be good, some days will be bad. Get used to it. Please understand it for next 10 years until as you start, or probably even more. There will be good and bad days around food. Okay, so as long as child is growing, as long as child is eating, as long as child is developing, it should not matter how much they are eating. All right, in general it should not matter. They should be enjoying eating. That's what we should be striving for. Okay. Um, Force feeding, as I said, should not be done. Now, I'll probably share some tips to how to make your kids, how to inculcate good eating habits in your kids, right? So, a prepared meal coming right on the table, served to eat, is altogether different compared to a meal which is while it is being cooked and the child is involved in the process of cooking. In fact, I'll go further one step. Parents should actually involve kids in purchasing of the food items as well, right? So please take your kids to the vegetable shop vendor. Let the kids choose those capsicum, bell pepper, turnip, beetroot, carrot. Let them pick them up and put it in the basket. Give them these independence. Let them enjoy touching all these food items, and they will also feel a sense of responsibility. They will feel the sense of um, belonging to the family. So once they have selected the meal, and when you're cooking the food, keep the kids on the slab, kitchen slab, so that ways they will hear the process of cooking. They will smell those condiment smells, spices. That increases the juices, gastric juices, and that starts the appetite. Compare this with the just cooked meal served on the table. It's very subjective. Then it becomes very, the chances of eating become very high when you involve the kids in the process of cooking, and you will be surprised how much they enjoy this process. Just give them something to just the kneaded dough. You can hand them over and they can keep on playing with it. Some point they'll eat it also, just the uncooked dough and all this. So all these things really help them to understand the food and eat it well. Now, second tip is probably the kind of words you would use in the family while talking about food, right? So if you use salad as healthy all the time, and if you would say chocolates and candies as yummy, so this gives the impression that yes, salads are healthy, but of course they're not yummy. Okay, so avoid these terminologies when you're discussing food or just talking about it randomly at home in front of children. So any salad, I mean, just avoid all these chocolates, candies talk around the food. Okay, also there's a concept of family pot eating, right? There's something called as eating in a family pot. So when you are eating, especially the lunch and dinner meals, make sure only at that time kids should be offered their meal as well. A lot of times, especially in the nuclear families, parents tend to feed the kids on their own first, get free of it, and then they would eat. So this probably is not a good idea. Logistically, sometimes it may not be possible to eat all the parents and kids together, but at least an effort should be made to do this. That ways, the eating as a family is a good idea. That ways, the kids tend to learn to eat also. Uh, Also, the screen time during the meal is not a good idea, right? It should be a family time. So television, mobiles, laptops, they should not be on at the time of eating, right? So this is very common. We get issues with the parents that kids only eat when the mobiles and laptops are on. So they are distracted, and that only then only they are. This is the worst thing you can do to your child. A, they should not be distracted. They should be concentrating on the food. B, the media, they are processing the information through their brains, through their eyes, and at the same time they are working on the food also. This is a very bad combination for both brain growth as well as the intestinal development. So yeah, please avoid it at all costs. Ideally, television screen time should not be there at all, if you ask me, less than 2 years. But I understand logistically, sometimes, especially in these kind of lockdown situation scenarios, it may not be possible all the time, but you have to restrict the duration of screen time to maximum 1 hour cumulative, and that too the content of the screen time has to be curtailed and monitored. So the fast flipping screens, even if they are cartoons, are to be avoided. Only the slow moving screens, and that too without advertisements, are to be looked into. And absolutely no while you're eating. So this is a strict no-no while the meal is being served to the kids. Then next is, if possible, the use of booster chairs, right? So if kids are too active, I wouldn't say hyperactive, but if they're too active, they'll probably run around the house, and a lot of time mothers are chasing their kids to make them eat. Now, the use of booster chair, at least that part is taken care of. So kids will be sitting on the booster chair. They cannot run around. They'll be strapped. There's a tray in front of them. So you will put the food on the tray, and maybe you can talk and directly, interact with your child. All the child now can do is either throw the food or eat it, right? So to begin with, you will find child throwing a lot, eating less. But on a regular basis, if you're persistent with it, very likely the percentage of eating will keep on increasing, especially if you're appreciating when the child eats, and the throwing part will gradually go down for sure. It's all about persistence. So booster chair sometimes is a helpful way to kind of make sure your child eats something. Yeah, that's another thing. Now, another way to ensure that your child will eat well is to avoid untimely snacking, right? So snacking, so the overall meal pattern would be like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then two snacks, 1 or 2 snacks maximum, just like we would do. So you can do this for like more than 1 year old kids, maybe 3 snacks for, let's say, 8 months or less babies. But yeah, try to give two major meals, lunch and dinner, for sure. And also, when prior to the lunch and the dinner meals, at least 3 hours gap should be observed, wherein the kid should not be snacking at all, right? Some parents don't lose the habit of their newborn feeding time, and they would try and feed the kids every 2 hours, no matter what, whether it's day or night and something. So every 2 hours snacking is not what is required after 6 months. In fact, for that matter, even for healthy newborns, we recommend 2 to 3 hours, rather 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours sometimes, feeding. And as the kids grow, the times can be extended even beyond that. So for babies who are eating food, 2 hours snacking is absolutely not necessary. In fact, before lunch and dinner, at least 3 hours gap should be observed so that they develop some stomach empty and develop some hunger pangs. So that way the chances of eating again become more. So yeah, all the time untimely snacking to be avoided. What else? Any questions if you have? I don't see much questions. Okay, I'll continue. Okay, there are questions actually. It's in the chat area, right? Okay. Okay, I have few questions. What should be the dinner time for the child? Okay, dinner time should be at least 2 hours before babies go to bed. So yeah, so if you ask me if babies should be in bed by 9:30, So dinner time should be around 7:30. 7 to 7:30 is probably ideal. And after that, you can have, at the end of it, you can just give some water to drink, and then babies go off to bed. Immediately going off to bed after the dinner is not a good idea. With a bloated stomach, they don't sleep well, and it's not a sound sleep. So at least 2 hours gap should be observed prior to sleep. So yeah, and sleep time should be around 9:30, 10. So that should be the time, 7 to 8 between. And should I offer milk at midnight? Okay, so depending on the age, uh, if in general, if you are asking, probably not. Okay, milk time should be during day only, when the babies wake up, when they sleep, go to bed. Even then, there is a habit some kids have, that is okay, but not at the time while babies are sleeping. Okay, yeah, yeah. So nighttime, okay, nighttime milk drinking has got a lot of issues, right? Our intestines need rest to prepare for digestion for the next day. Okay, so for that they need to be resting the overnight, and should not be working. When you give the child the milk, they are always working, even at night. They are in the process of digestion all the time, which is not healthy for the intestines. Also, nighttime milk drinking and not rinsing the mouth with water leads to dental caries, deposition of bacteria in the mouth. So strict no. We see a lot of babies with dental caries with these when this habit is present. So night drinking of milk to be avoided. All right. Another question which I have is that there's my child eat less quantity. What to do? So as I answered, less and more are very subjective, and sometimes they are only parental perceptions. For you, it might be less, but for the child, it might be sufficient. If the child is growing, how to know exactly whether it's actually accurate or not? If the child is growing well, and when I say growing well, doesn't mean put on the weight only, but brain development point of view. So if reaching all the developmental milestones in a timely fashion, if there is some weight gain as per the age of the child, usually between 1 year and 2 years, there's not much weight gain. They tend to become thinner and taller, and the weights generally stays static or somewhat little bit weight increases there, not much compared to the first year. So parents have a tendency to compare with the first year. When they don't find that, they get worried, and then they try to feed the babies much more, and then the problem happens, right? Okay, so another question is, what do you do when child is sick and rejects food? Okay, so when we are also sick, we don't eat a lot, right? So please, the same is true for kids also. They are also live on the same planet. They have a similar kind of bodies, and they also manifest things in the same manner. So yes, they might not eat as much when they are sick. If I have fever, I will probably not eat the whole day. That's all right. My body is sick. My body needs to rest. I need to let my intestines also rest, because there might be viral infection there also. So it's good actually not, it's a body's way to take rest, that the appetite actually goes down. So body itself produces this kind of sensation that there is loss of appetite. Once the body recovers from illness, then body actually tends to overcompensate for it, and then babies come back, they catch up. Okay, so don't worry. Just make sure that they drink lots of fluids at that time. So water intake, fluids like coconut water, rice water, ORS, etc. are offered regularly. Not the juices, not Glucon-D, etc., but natural products to be given to the babies during this time. This should be ensured, and urine output should be ensured that they are passing adequate urine. Food, if it is less, it's all right. They'll compensate. Okay, more questions. Shruti Mathur, baby eat only one textured food. How to introduce other textures? Okay, again, please mention the age group. That will help me further. But introducing texture again should be done in a timely fashion. If you introduce one, persist with it for at least a week, 10 days. Child might not accept the first day, second day. They might try it out on the third day, fourth day, and then gradually they might like it. Now, when you introduce a new food with new texture and new flavor, make sure when they are eating, um, one common food which they have already tried and tested and which they like is also there, right? So then that way they tend to try the new food. The chances of trying the new food are more. If you introduce a lot of foods together which are all new, kids may not try to try it out, all of them together. So one already known food, if it is already there, then the chances of acceptance go much higher. Okay, do you have more questions? Okay, all right. Okay, so what else? Yeah, so see, as I was mentioning, kids like to have fun, right? All they understand is fun. So if you make fun out of food, so just giving you one example of it, that let's say if you're offering a chapati or something, so if you can make a smiley on top of it with a ketchup or butter or jam, that'll help them get this take this chapati much more. All right, there's one more question which has come up. How can I know how well my toddler is growing? She's 21 months. Okay. Um, Obviously, you have to visit your pediatrician. They will measure their weight, length, and they'll discuss out their development. And based on that, you will get to know how well they are developing. So development is not just based on weight, it's on multiple spheres, including the brain development. And I keep telling my patients all the time that for me, the development is absolutely not restricted to weight and length. It's also how well the babies are developing. Are they reaching the developmental milestones in a timely manner or not? So those things are more important. So such developmental milestones you can easily get online. So just if you want to do it yourself, you can print out a chart and see where your child stands. Similar weight and length charts are also available online. Just check it out. For 21 months, around the average weight would be, I would say, around 12 kg. Height would be around, let's say, 85 centimeters. So something like that. But again, these are all just fixed numbers. If parents are short, kids are also likely to be shorter. If parents are very tall, then these again same things. All right, so how much milk she should drink during the day? Okay, for 21-month-old child, I'd say all milk and milk products should comprise not more than 300 to 400 ml, right? And I specify again, milk and milk products, not just milk. And milk products include dahi, paneer, all this, so they combine. And we get a lot of babies who are drinking more than 1 liter milk per day only, and on top of it, they are eating pastries, they are eating curd, paneer, everything. So much milk they are taking. If I drink 1 liter milk per day, I'll probably not eat enough. And think of smaller kids; a lot of them are drinking 1 liter every day. So that's why they don't eat well all the time. And also they tend to develop iron deficiencies and other vitamin deficiencies also if they drink too much milk. So milk should be restricted later on to 3 to 400 ml per day. Avoid eating lentils with chapati and rice. Yeah, see, don't expect kids to follow exactly how you are following as far as feeding habits are concerned, right? Dal, rice, chapati, these are very good foods, very traditional foods, but habits will come with time, right? If they don't eat, maybe you can give a break, introduce something else, and then make fun out of it. As we discussed, make some fun activity around it, appreciate them when they are eating, and if they don't, absolutely no problem, just take it away, offer something else, right? So they will eat unless, so if they, another way to do it is, if they don't eat lentil or dal just like that, maybe you can mix the dal in the, while you're kneading the dough for making chapatis, and make a paratha, dal paratha out of it. So that way the advantage of both lentils and dals as well as the chapati goes to the baby, right? You have to try and outsmart the kids, right? These days they are very smart, so you need to keep pace with them. So yeah, but again, most important, see, the fussy eaters, I see it all the time, are the ones wherein parents are the ones who are anxious. If parents are very cool about it, if they don't give too much fuss about the food for their child, those are the kids who eat really well actually. It's the other way around. So you need to leave the control out of it. Let the kids decide, let the kids choose, ask the menu for them, ask them what would they want to eat, and then take the ownership of them. Ask them how much you should put in their plate, how much rice you should put in their plate, so that they how much they would want to finish. Ask them leading questions, so they would then try and take the ownership out of it. Okay, anything else? Okay, another questions. My baby 6 month old at night time is not taking feed, sleeping. Well, that's very good actually. You're a lucky parent. So you should not be worried. Let the child sleep, you also sleep. Okay, he's big enough to be sleeping the whole night. Let the child sleep. When the child will wake up, he will compensate for it. He'll take the milk, what he has not taken at night, but that's a very good habit actually. So yeah, it should be something to be proud of, not worried about. So that's a good thing. If the child is otherwise growing well, weight gain and playful child, yeah, that's a good thing. No problem with that. All right. If there are no more questions, I'll. Okay, there's one more. Last. Can be taken to the child while traveling. Okay. When you're traveling, sometimes it might be difficult to prepare meals, right? While on the travel or you're outside, although these days nobody's traveling, so that helps. But in case you have to travel, um, pre-cooked meals or meals which are easy to be cooked while on the go, just adding hot water, so you can prepare your own Cerelac kind of thing. I'm not promoting anything, but it's a common terminology which is used. So you can prepare homemade cereals together, and then take it, add some grated nuts into it, add some jaggery into it, right? If the child is more than 1 year, so you can add all those substances, and then just put it in a bowl of milk and offer to the child. Some kind of mueslis can be offered, cut fruits can be offered. So all these fruits and food items you can be carrying. Again, pre-made market available foods such as Cerelac and etc. They are easy to prepare, so I don't mind parents using it while they're traveling if they find it easier, because kids also tends to take it nicely and it's easy to prepare as well. So yes, for travel's sake, I don't mind using these products. Okay, last one I'll take. Sleeping hours for 15 months baby. Like if he's sleeping around 12 and wakes up at 10 in the morning, is it good? Yeah, it is. That's all right. Absolutely. It's a big chap, right? 12-month-old child, 1-year-old child, as I mentioned before, also can sleep the whole night. Although I'm not happy if you're letting the child sleep at 12 at night, right? Try to inculcate good habits. Try to make the child sleep at around 10 o'clock, if not earlier. 10 o'clock, light should be off, and then maybe child can wake up at 6 7, doesn't matter, or even 8 9, doesn't matter. So yes, kids above 6 months, they if they want to sleep whole night, it's absolutely fine. All the kids, you're lucky parents, no problem. Don't worry about their food habits, eating habits. They'll wake up and compensate for it. All right, thank you very much for patient listening. If any queries, you can ask, you can send them across on our website, and we'll try and answer them. Thank you. Bye for now.